Yo, what's up, everybody? It is Thursday, December 12th. So, I've been talking to you guys about how I think, I've been seeing what I'm calling, the debt fear, the debt time bomb crescendo. And we got this Doge thing going on. We got Elon talking about it. We have, everybody's talking about it now. This is a thing. People have been talking about the so-called debt. And remember, all this stems from a deep, fundamental misunderstanding about the debt, which is not really a debt. But I've done many videos on that. But it is everywhere now. It is everywhere. I just turned on Fox News. It was on there. I mean, everywhere. People talk and constant harping on, we got to get this debt under control. You had Janet Yellen saying she apologizes. She was apologizing for the debt that has been added since she has been Treasury. I mean, this is pathetic. It's pathetic. But the other thing is I don't know if any of you saw this because it was out in it was online, it was in the news over the last couple of days. I sent it out to my subscribers that there was a big article and it was carried by all the, the wire services, the news services, that there is going to be an historic, I think they said 8.9, let's call it 9 trillion of wealth passed along from one generation to the next. In other words, from the current, the older generation like myself into the newer generation. It's the largest wealth transfer, intergenerational wealth transfer in history, okay? And this is correct, all right? And I'm going to get into it. But at the same time, when this report was out there, and I forget, and I don't do editing on my videos, so otherwise I would have put up the article on here so you could, click on it or look at it. I don't do editing. I just shoot these things on my iPhone and that's it. But it's out there. If you Google it, you'll see that it is out there. And it was, I forget who did the study on this, and it really doesn't matter because this is what happens from generation to generation. But at the same time that, this is going to happen, an historic wealth transfer from one generation to the next. And what does that mean, actually? I mean, we grow up, we work, or we have businesses, we acquire assets, we acquire savings, income. We get old, it gets passed along. It gets passed along. It doesn't just disappear, okay? It gets passed along. I mean, assets, homes, land, property, capital, savings, all kinds of things gets passed along. So that was reported, okay? But at the same time, you have all these people. They could be politicians, they could be people in the media, they could even be economists who say, we're passing along this debt to our kids and our grandkids, when it's exactly the opposite. Look, I'll give you an example. In World War II, the United States ran up a deficit that at that time was 34% of GDP. It was the highest percentage of GDP. That would be like a deficit now of 10 trillion or something like that. Okay. We didn't even come close to that. I mean, that we got to during the pandemic, we got to, I think it was about 3 trillion or something like that. it would be the equivalent now of like 10 trillion. But that deficit was the reason behind the buildup for World War II, which encompassed production plants, wages being paid to workers, infrastructure, all kinds of things, assets, okay? All of that stuff, technology that created at that time, let's say, weaponry or whatever that eventually was converted in, for everyday use, for non-war use. All that stuff was passed along to the current generation, which you could say, okay, that's my generation. There was nothing we had to pay back. We received that. Okay, that was passed along. Savings, property, assets, capital, physical capital. It was created as a result of that, and it gets passed along from one generation to the next. And you have this information out there now. It was reported. Biggest in history. Yet at the same time, you have people saying, we're going to pass along these debts to our kids and our grandkids, when it is exactly the opposite thing that is happening. Exactly the opposite thing that is happening. It's a bounty of wealth. Now, I'm not saying it gets all evenly distributed. I always, make that qualification whenever I talk about these things, whether it has to be with taxes, whether it has to be with spending. I always say that. I speak in the aggregate. And it's important, yet I don't think it's ever going to happen, that people should understand this, because the real danger that we're facing is not what all these people are talking about the debt. The real danger we are facing is the ignorance surrounding what this all is. And I've often said that a bad belief system is like a disease in the body. And if the disease is not eradicated, it can kill the body. Now, a few weeks ago, I made a video. I said that I have a dark side. And my dark side is that I secretly wish, maybe not, but let me just say, I secretly wish that what these people are advocating, massive spending cuts, reducing the deficit, all this stuff, in a way, I hope they go ahead with that. I hope that comes to fruition, because I think it's important that these people face the consequences of their beliefs. Now, I might lose money, I might lose personal wealth. I can tell you this, I won't lose as much as the people who think that this is going to be a good thing. I know how to take advantage if something like that actually comes to fruition, okay? Because I know what the impact on the economy, on society is going to be. So at the very least, I can be prepared. I'm not going to be dancing around saying, woohoo, this is going to be fantastic. Here's another thing. And people have been sending me emails on this, but I already know, it was announced a couple of days ago that Argentina balanced its budget or eliminated its debt for the first time in 123 years. And there's all kinds of cheering going on about this. First of all, the Argentine situation is not really comparable to the United States, because Argentina has debts that are denominated in foreign currency. They borrowed a lot in dollars. Okay, so they're not, their debt is a real debt, whereas in the United States, the United States spends in its own currency. All of its liabilities are denominated in its own currency. Okay, so, but the point I'm trying to make is that all the hoopla about this and, people pointing to this and saying, Look what Argentina just did. Look at what Milei just did, the president of Argentina. Oh, I happen to like that guy, okay? What's going to happen is that people are going to say, now we need to do this here in the United States. Two different situations, okay? Argentina, arguably, maybe had to do this because they had an out-of-control inflation situation. But really, the problem with Argentina is that it borrowed in a foreign currency. And to meet the debt service requirements, to pay, right, your borrowers, your creditors, they were printing money and using that to pay, to buy dollars, to pay. That was the problem. When you borrow in somebody else's currency, you are on the hook. That is a real creditor that you have to pay. Okay? Now, I don't know how much the fact that Argentina balanced its budget or eliminated its debt, domestically is going to help them pay, because they're still going to, that savings, so to speak, to the Argentine government is just going to be transferred to creditors, okay? So maybe that had to happen. I don't know. Are creditors coming after Argentina with the threat of seizing assets? I don't know. If that was the case, then maybe they had no choice. Otherwise, they would lose, have their assets seized. But I mean, eliminating the debt, did they really do that? I mean, that whatever savings the Argentine government got from eliminating the debt just is going to get transferred to the creditors. It also leaves the non-government sector of Argentina with less pesos, okay? The pesos were collected back. They went to the Argentine treasury. So it doesn't really help the people. It might help prices come down, and that, maybe that balances out a little bit. So I'm not even sure how this is gonna, how this is some way a benefit. I think probably the peso will rise, but I'm getting off track. What I'm trying to say is that, and I've already seen this, that people here in the United States, people on Wall Street, politicians are saying, hey, look at Argentina. We have to do that now. And that's where my dark side is saying, go ahead, make my day. As tough as it'll get in this country, and believe me, you think there's kind of dystopian scenes in certain places around this country? It will be everywhere. Everywhere. Okay? So, go ahead. Make my day. You all think, here we go again. A bad belief system is like a disease in the body. If you don't cure the disease, it will kill the body. And everybody has so bought into this idea that the debt, and we got to get rid of the debt. Go ahead. Now, if the United States, if there was some other entity out there in the world, like China, let's say, if China and the U.S. kind of changed places, where China was the net spender of the globe, of the world, and we were the net saver. In other words, we would be running trade surpluses with China and the rest of the world. Then yeah, the government here could balance its budget, because the net spender is somewhere else. It's externally. It's in the foreign sector. But that's not the case. And this is not something that you should be afraid of. Like I said, the United States is the engine that powers the global economy. And that engine, the core of that engine, Okay? The cylinders, the pistons, the spark plugs, the core of that engine is federal government spending. And it is not, again, like the federal government all by itself says, let's spend on this and this and that. We elect people to go to Washington to represent our interests, and this is what comes out of it. I'm not saying it's a clean process. I'm not saying that they go there and they 100% represent our interests. I know that. I'm not naive. But this is the system we have. And it happens to be the engine of economic growth for the entire freaking world. And all these people who are out there saying we got to reduce the debt, and they acting like they're so smart and they really understand anything, bring out my dark side. Make my day. Go ahead and do it. I cannot wait. Yeah, I'm going to be affected. We're all going to be affected. But I'll be, at least in some way, protected, because I know what's going to happen. And it's not going to be celebration time like they all think. Okay? Once again, it was reported correctly that we are going to have the largest wealth transfer, intergenerational wealth transfer in history. Transfer, wealth. No debt to the kids and the grandkids. Inheriting property, savings, assets. So there is no, we're leaving a big burden on the kids and the grandkids. That is bullshit. That's not happening. And it's out there, but they just don't want to look at it. They want to keep up this nonsense of the debt and the debt. So go ahead, make my day. That's it for today. Please like and subscribe. And don't forget to go to my website, pitbulleconomics.com, and sign up for a 30-day free trial to MMT Trader. You want to be protected? Look, I'll just say one more thing. Trump, and I voted for Trump, and I was excited, and I still am, but he has surrounded himself with a bunch of debt phobes and a bunch of crypto nut jobs. So we're in for some kind of wild, wild west economic scenario over this next 4 years. And if you're not prepared for it, that's your problem, okay? Deal with it. I'm here to help. But you got to help yourself before anyone can help you. See you tomorrow. Bye.